My name's Bren. I'm from Oklahoma. I work with the big data cluster. I look at geochemistry and mineralogy in my research, and I'm getting a master's degree.
Niara.
Hi, I'm Niara Hicks. I'm also getting a master's degree at the University of Vermont. I am studying the interactions between water quality and water quantity and vegetation health. Um, and yeah, I'm on my second year in this thing and hopefully my last of two.
Education will go on forever. One of the reasons that we're hanging out and talking today, you had a field trip. You went on a field trip this summer. You met new people. You went to new places and you saw new things. Niara, where did you go?
We went to Yosemite National Park in California and we were there for 5 nights. Yeah, 5 nights, 6 days. Um, yeah, it was an experience. It was a very new experience for the both of us.
Bren, had you been there before?
I had only ever driven through, and also that was like I was very little. We drove through the valley, so backpacking in was really, really cool. We were fortunate enough to have really great camp food too. So we were well fed and it was hard work, but the views were just so beautiful. And the people were really great. We had a lot of great people to work with.
I'm going to ask this of both of you first, Brent, since you just answered. We'll stick with you for a second. You mentioned the backpacks and having to carry all the stuff that you were packing in there. Is this part of your regular field work? Is being ready for 5 nights out in the field, or was this sort of new to take everything that you would need for a field trip?
That portion of it was definitely new. We are in the field a lot, but never overnight. So yeah, carrying in your tent and your sleeping bag and your pad and like all the stuff. That was very new. I had never done a backcountry backpacking like that before. And it was awesome. I would do it again. I enjoyed it. I would do it again.
Niara, how about for you? Did you have a list of stuff that you were going to put in your pack? Did they send you some advice, or was it like, I should not have brought that big coat with me? That was too much.
No, our colleagues were very thorough and helpful, very organized. So we knew exactly what to bring, and even some optional things that ended up being very, very helpful, like carabiners or little towel shower wipes. Those were key. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed our time there for sure. It was rough at first because I'm not really a boots on the ground type of person, but it was great. It was a learning experience.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, Niara, and then we'll go back to Bren. So one of the things that the cluster has really emphasized with people that are part of the big data cluster and across the critical zone collaborative network is this being able to see new things and meet new people and connect with other researchers that you might not otherwise get to talk to. And you just mentioned, Niara, that you're not usually someone who's out there in the field. You're looking at data samples and maybe stuff in a lab. So why was it important for you to get this experience in the field?
I would say because due to COVID, a lot my like second half of my undergrad experience didn't have that much outdoor fieldwork component, or it was very limited. And my project doesn't involve a lot of field work either because it involves mostly coding. So it was important to me to be able to gain these skills and learn how to, or not learn, but um, further establish the skill of collaborating with others in the field when I don't have that many opportunities to do that in my current research.
Bren, is that similar for you? Like it was a chance to meet new people and talk to new researchers who may be looking at the critical zone in a different way than you are?
Oh yeah, yeah. The conversations we were having, because everybody brought like different perspective. And there's a lot of wildfires that go on in the basin that we were researching specifically. So it was really interesting to hear like how other critical zone researchers have to think about water differently. Because up in Vermont, like we have a lot of water, even when we're in a drought. And yeah, definitely very, very cool people.
This is more of a personal question. And of course, you don't have to answer things like this if you don't want to, but I'm a pretty introverted person. And when I have to go around to be a bunch of other people that I don't know, I have a special social mask that I put on to prepare. Do you have scientist masks that you put on when you're going to be talking and hanging around with scientists that you don't usually see? Brand, is this a practice for you, or are you just naturally outgoing and it doesn't matter? You could be comfortable in any situation?
I am very extroverted and I do talk to a lot of people. I'm comfortable doing that. I don't think I really put on a scientific mask. I think I just get a little bit more quiet when I'm around other scientists because I want to hear what they say. And I always feel like, oh, they're probably smarter than me. Everyone feels like that. So I just want to hear what they got to say. So I guess my mask would just be kind of toning down my vibrancy.
Niara, what about you? How do you interact with new people and meet new people in scientist mode?
I would agree. I also just kind of sit back and observe and listen, and I don't really like say that much at first, or I'm just kind of absorbing new information. Yeah, I get pretty quiet when I meet new people in a STEM setting.
Is that something, Niara, that you would encourage people who may be watching and thinking about how they're going from undergraduate to their own graduate degree program and getting their own master's? Like, is that being quiet and listening, has that really served you well?
I think I need to work on speaking when I know I can participate in the conversation, because I think sometimes the quietness can come off as like not wanting to participate, but really it's more like I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm just not going to say anything, but I'm actually literally consuming every single word everyone is saying. So I that's something I feel like it is important to observe and like pay attention to what others are saying so you can be more used to those conversations, but also don't be afraid to give your input, because your input does have value, even though it may not seem like it does because you're newer in the field or you're younger, but like your perspective is valued to others as well.
Bren, is that the same sort of thing that you feel like, oh, I want to say something. I wish I had said something that was just exactly what I was supposed to say, and somebody said it to confront your own imposter syndrome in those situations?
Yeah, it happens, definitely. Yeah. I think Julia, our advisor, sums it up really well when she says step up and step back. I think those are the words she uses. Yeah, it's good to, yeah, step up, say your piece, and then give everybody else space.
She does do that, and she's a really amazing leader in that way. All right, Bren, let's talk a little bit about Yosemite. Let's say night one, you've been out there, you put the pack on, you loaded it out, you walked, you may be feeling tired, your feet may hurt. You're not complaining. You don't want to be one of those people out there, being that person like, oh my God, it's so heavy. What was night one like for you?
Night one was surreal. Like, it was so cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the country. Like, we're out here away. It was cool. I was excited to set up my tent. I'd done it a million times before, but it was in Yosemite this time. So it was really cool. And the first night we camped right by a creek that had pretty fast flowing water over these like boulder type things. So there was a lot of water movement. It was so beautiful. We went down and hung out there. And I have video evidence of this, Andrew. I've been editing like the hour of footage that we have, and I will be sharing that with you. So there is documented breakdown of day one.
That is excellent. I'm so excited to see it. Niara, what was the first thing you did when your tent was all set up that first night?
I admired it and I took a few photos of it because I was very proud because it was a new tent. Um, yeah, and once we kind of all settled in camp, it was dinner time, and that was a good time because we got to know the other folks in our campsite, and I kind of just soaked in like, wow, I am so high up right now and so far away from other people. Um, so yeah, took all that in, and then yeah, I really enjoyed night one. It was great. Yeah.
And then the next morning, Niara, when it was time to get up, did someone have to like tap on your tent to wake you up? Or were you up at the sunrise? You're grinding some coffee beans and heating them over a campfire? Like, what was that morning like, waking up in the field for the first time?
I think I was like slightly awake, but then Bren woke me up, or not like abruptly, but it was like they're making breakfast, and I was like, oh, okay, and got myself together. So it was like a gentle wake up. Yeah.
Brent, did you make sure to get Niara first, or did you get a little cup of coffee before you went to visit
I
Niara?
I was up with the sun and I was walking around, but I did come back. I was like, is she all right? Is she alive? So I was checking in.
So the next day you got to, so Niara, you had that tent, you set it up, you were so proud, you took pictures of it, then you had to take it down. How was getting that tent set up by the fifth night? Were you like, this is no problem, I could do this for the rest of my life?
No. I mean, it was still like the same amount of, like, it didn't get any harder or easier. It was just more like, again. But like, but because yeah, I did not enjoy that part. Especially because that meant I would have to put it back on my pack and carry it again. Um, and I don't think I was in the best of shape as I could have been. Uh, so yeah, that was not my favorite.
This is really actually important field work stuff to think about. How do you have that resiliency, have that stamina, what you've got to do beforehand. You could do all the learning you want in class and with books, but Bren, how do you prepare for actually being out there? Is it a backpack full of books that you just walk up and downstairs for a week before? Or like, how do you train for the field?
I just started running a little bit, but like nothing really that intense. Like I definitely went out there and was like, okay, my body's gonna be sore. And it was. Because we were just carrying a lot of gear. We had these cool packs and they weighed a lot. But training for the field, I think it's just you just do it. You just go to the field and then you understand the days are going to be hard, but they're very rewarding too. Like you're doing work, but you're outside and like it's cool. I don't know.
So, Bren, first you and then back over to Niara. So you have all this time to spend. You're hiking. You're talking with these people that you're meeting and collaborating with on this trip. What was the ratio of science talk versus personal talk?
Whoa. You know, I'm gonna say it was about 60 or more percent personal. And then there was a lot of science talk, but we were just talking all the time. And as the days went by further, like the first couple of days were more science heavy. And then by the last day, like we were asking this married couple like how they met and like we were getting into like pretty casual conversations by the last day. Yeah, yeah.
Niara, was that the same thing for you that you found at the beginning? It was all very professional, but then it got loosened up and more casual as the days went on out there in the middle of the desert?
Yes, 100%. And also, I feel like there was some overlap, like a lot of conversations that could be considered both because a lot of us are very connected to our research and our science escapades. So, like personal conversations about science that is still personal to us. But I will, yeah, I think it was mostly personal.
I like the idea of science escapades. That could be a podcast right there. Let's just talk about Niara and Bren. Just a couple of more questions, and thank you for spending some time. But let's talk a little bit about one of the most important parts of this trip was to launch and build collaborative relationships for working on science together. Niara, did you find someone to collaborate with? Was their idea, we should write a paper about this, oh, we're going to do that. That sounds great to start that process.
Like someone new.
Or someone old, but someone new would be anyone, like, or was just you and Bren like, we should write about this, and yeah, we totally should.
It was mostly me and Bren, like, oh, get your GoPro, we should record this, and like, oh, we need to do. We came up with a name for our critical zone TikTok that we are creating. Critical zone cuties, and
Oh,
we came
nice.
up with like a sign off, like a tagline, like critical zone cuties signing off, and like that's what we were doing when we were there. It was fun. It was a time.
That is great. It's to have that brainstorm and that creative spark while you're out there. That was well worth it for just the time that you spent. Bren, same thing for you. That was more collaborating with your already known cluster member.
I we had good times. We did talk a lot, but I spent a lot of time with Eli's dad. Both of Eli's parents came to like help with camp food and stuff. And Eli's dad was telling me about some LiDAR research that he had done, and it was just like a whole bunch of information about sensors and satellites that I had no idea about. But he had done like remote work for like the drones when the the 9/11 towers fell. Like he was looking for heat signatures, trying to figure out like where people may have been under there. He was also involved on like the mission that discovered water on the moon. Like he was part of that remote sensing, and I learned a lot of cool things that I had no idea about. I don't think I'm qualified to write papers about those by any means, but it was really cool. I would have never had that conversation or have known that without going.
So Niara, for you, this is an experience you would never have had without all the people that you've met along the way. What was the decision that you made in your academic life that led you to Yosemite this summer?
The one major
The
decision,
one thing, yes, if you're like, that was the why.
deciding to be Julia's grad student instead of my other options, for sure.
So that highlights the people that you choose to work with are very important.
Yes.
Niara, if there last question for you, and I'll ask the same thing of Bren. If there was one, so there's a high school student out there right now who's debating, should I go into a STEM field? Should I become a field scientist? Some of those things fascinate me that I read. Niara, how would you encourage them to follow the path that you are on?
And they're in high school?
Yeah.
I would say don't be afraid to communicate your interest with your science teachers, because they are more than happy to work with you, and they enjoy students who are enthusiastic about their field, so they can help you in many more ways than you would think. um, yeah, I would say that's like a good start. They can also communicate opportunities to you that you probably wouldn't be able to find very easily on the internet. And yeah, I would say that's a good first start.
Was this trip for you, Niara, like, oh, I made a right choice with science. This is definitely the way to go.
Yes, for sure. Once we when we were driving our rental car from the Reno airport to Yosemite, I was like, I literally would not have had this opportunity. Like, this is crazy that science can bring you to so many cool places, doing so many things that are very difficult to explain to parents, but like they're very it's just so mind blowing. And yeah, definitely one of my favorite moments of this year.
Bren, what would you say to a high school student who's considering whether or not science may be something they're interested in pursuing in the future?
I would just say like go do it. Don't let the math intimidate you. I think that's a big hindrance for people. They're like, oh, STEM. But geology and field work, like you can push through those couple of years of math. You don't have to get an A. And then yeah, if it's interesting to you at all, go for it, because not like in the grand scheme of things, not a ton of people are out here doing the field work. So if you have an interest for it, like absolutely go for it. That's what I would say.
And were you listening to this person talk about their research finding water on the moon and just being, I cannot believe that I am talking to this human being right now?
Yes, and we both went to the same place for undergrad, and we knew like there was one professor that was like the same. We both had the same professor. My mind was blown. Yeah, my mind was blown.
You're like, this is it. I'm locked in. Science is my life now.
Yeah, because like, and that even goes on in years, because when you go to conferences, like I might see some of these people again at conferences this year when we go, or in the future. Like once you're in the science, like you'll just see the people again. I don't know. I feel like the community nationally gets a good amount of check-ins compared to other like industries or career ideas.
Thank you both for taking some time today. We'll hang out.